we stroll down the streets of East 3rd Street here in downtown Maysville, Kentucky. I'd like to talk to you a few minutes about this old girl right across the street, the Russell Theater. I'd like to talk about how she got built during the Great Depression in America and some of the fun activities that went on there for the last 95 years. Let's talk about it. Builds for the future is unselfish because it is certain that he will not remain to enjoy it, that the others will follow him will. That is the opening line of the Daily Independent newspaper story about the opening of the Russell Theater. On 4 December 1930, the paper dedicated the entire front page to a story about a pretty fabulous looking theater in small town America. Through a dream of many years, Colonel J. Barber Russell did not fully conceive the idea of constructing a new theater until the old Washington Opera House was destroyed by fire the previous January. With this famous landmark gone, he was not long into action, and soon came to the announcement that Maysville was going to have one of the finest theaters in America. For those of you that keep up with American history, you have to realize that in October of 1929, the stock market crashed in New York City, therefore plunging America into a decade-long depression. The unemployment figures were at 25%, and general laborer folks were just not working at all. Mr. Russell opted to build his theater anyway. So in the spring of 1930, just a few months later, he hired local contractors and gave the entire project to J.F. Hardiman Company to get the theater built. He bought materials right here in Maysville as much as possible and gave those that wanted to work a job of building this fabulous piece of property. Now some of you are probably curious, what was the very first movie that the Russell played when it opened on 4 December 1930? Well, it was a movie called Whoopee. It starred a fellow by the name of Eddie Cantor, and it played several times a day for days on end until most everybody in town had the opportunity to see it. Just a little over a year after the theater opened, this headline appeared in the paper. The Russell Theater entered, safe content stolen. That's not good. Instead of attempting to open it in the office and run the risk of being heard, they carried the safe weighing about 350 pounds from the theater and took it to the country before finishing the job. With a heavy charge of explosive being used, the safe, which had been blown open at the place where it was found, was badly damaged. The door was found across the street down near Moransburg on Charleston Bottoms Road, and when the police brought the safe back to the Russell Theater, the only thing they found in the safe was a dime. That's not good. On 30 June 1938, the Russell Theater changed hands. It changed hands to the Shine Corporation, and they started out with a blockbuster set of movies. Laurel and Hardy, Swiss Miss was one of the premier movies after the change-up. The 1940s was relatively quiet at the Russell Theater. When you did go see a movie during the first 5 years, you get to see a government newsreel showing the men fighting in the Pacific and over in Europe. So they would kind of give you an update on what's going on with the war front. I did find a few examples to give you an idea of some of the flicks that were at the theater. Comrade X, starring Clark Gable and Hedy Lamarr, was in 1941. That sounds like a kind of a cool one. In 1942, Betty Grable and Victor Mature was in I Wake Up Screaming. Plus, Soldiers in White, also our gang comedy. More war stories during those times. In 1944, I found it looks like a blockbuster here, Tarzan's Desert Mystery. The Fighting Sullivans, the North Star Harvest Medley, Three Men in White, and The Navy Way. More war movies during this era in the 1940s at the Russell. During the 1950s, the Russell Theater did more than just show movies. I found Movie Mania, sponsored by the Moore's store up there on 3rd Street and Market. It was broadcast over WFTM, and when the movie was over, they gave away cash prizes and merchandise. Well, that sounds like a pretty cool deal there. Did you know that the Montgomery Ward store put on a fashion show at the Russell Theater? Now, I bet that would have been pretty cool to see some of the lovely ladies of the Maysville area in the 1950s putting on the coolest dresses for sale from Montgomery Ward's. Hey, kiddies! All you had to do was get 10 caps of any Cloverleaf products, which you usually find the caps laying in the street anywhere. You pick those up, take them down to the Russell Theater, and you get free entrance to the movies. Now, that's a pretty sweet deal. The colas are not going to be left out in this deal. Double Cola Day show and auction at the theater. See 3 big cartoons. All you need to do is bring in 6 double cola or 6 of the 7-Up caps. You get a chance to win bicycles, radios, and cameras, and other things. Now that sounds like a pretty fun afternoon, I would think. Probably one of the most exciting things that happened in the 1950s at the Russell Theater is when Rosemary Clooney came home to premiere her movie in January of 1953 called The Stars Are Singing.
I'd rather you didn't help me.
I want to help. Look, Terry, I didn't start this fight. You did.
All I said was we don't talk the same language. If you were willing to face the...
Look, I'm a school teacher. How do you want me to talk, like those jive characters you run around with?
A cool piece of history to mention is the exact dress that Rosemary was wearing in The Stars Are Singing is on display at the Russell Theater. The city of Maysville pulled out all the stops for Miss Rosemary when she came to town. There was a huge parade. Check out the size of the crowds of the parade down on 2nd Street especially. And look at that monster crowd, shoulder to shoulder in front of the Russell Theater on East 3rd Street. Wow, what a night that would have been to remember. Occasionally a blockbuster movie shows up at the Russell Theater. In 1967, The Sound of Music was playing for 2 weeks. It was so popular it was held over for a 3rd week. In the middle 1960s, one thing I really remember is the Clydesdays down here at the Russell Theater. He had 6 weeks of matinee movies on a Tuesday afternoon, but the cool part about it is he would give away a boys and a girls bike every week. There were as many as 2,400 kids in the theater, designed for 750. Well, there were kids running everywhere down there. Sadly, I never won one of the bikes. 1970s here in Maysville, the time I started growing up in the teenage years. I attended the First Christian Church right over there most of my life. So around 1973, our youth pastor, Miss Judy Ridlin, took about 40 or 45 of us youth folks over here to the Russell Theater to see the movie Jesus Christ Superstar. Well, that was a very, very controversial film then, and she took us over here to check it out. You had basically 3 choices of things to do in the Maysville area at the time. You could go to Town and Country Lanes, bowl a few games, hang out with your friends, or you can cruise the Basotti's restaurant and the Friss's restaurant, which were about a block apart over in Aberdeen, kind of like they did in American Graffiti movies, or you can attend the Russell Theater. So one time during the 1970s, I brought my high school sweetheart down here to the Russell Theater to see the movie Grease. Now Grease starred Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, which were 2 pretty big stars in the 1970s. And it was kind of a chase scene type movie that we enjoyed it. And we enjoyed it so much that about a week or two later, with not much else going on, we decided to come and see it again. Another flick we come to see was called A Star is Born. Now this one had Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson in it, and it was kind of a love-hate story, a tearjerker type movie that the women really enjoyed. Because let's face it, there wasn't much else to do around here back in the day. In 1983, the Russell Theater ceased to exist as a movie house. It was then used for a restaurant, a furniture store, and a newspaper operation. Now, sometime after the theater building became vacant, heavy wind and rains ripped off the section of the roof. This allowed the damaged interior gutter to drain into the theater. Exposed to the elements for a long period, the sodden plaster on portions of the west interior wall collapsed into the auditorium. In 1995, a group of Maysville citizens began a grassroots fundraising effort to save the Russell, and in just 40 days raised $41,000 through community donations. The theater was purchased for $37,000, a new rubber roof was installed to protect the theater from further damage, and a non-profit organization called the Russell Theater Corporation was formed with the aim of restoring the theater to its 1930s glory. The first phase of restoring the marquee was completed in 2002, with restoration of other parts of the building and the lobby having followed. Auditorium seating, previously removed in the early 1980s to help restore another theater, was reinstated by virtue of a donation in 2019 by the University of Kentucky Gatton College of Business. As of 2022, the Russell Theater Corporation is currently seeking to raise funds for restoration of the auditorium. The Russell Theater is poised to once again become the heart of downtown Maysville, where it will serve as the area's most ornate and elegant venue for featured films. Would you be interested in seeing what the Rosa looks like today? Come on in, let's go. Got to thank Justin Helvey for letting me come in here today to show you guys what this place looks like. What can you tell me about the chandelier?
So this is one of the original chandeliers from the Russell. It was donated by Larry Brammer, and it was upstairs in storage for I don't know how many years. Last year we brought it down and had it restored by Seltzer's Lamp Shop in Paris, Kentucky. He totally rewired it and painted it for us to make it look like it would have looked back in the 30s.
Give me an idea of the kind of flicks that you show here off and on, a little bit about that.
What we'll do is in the summertime, we'll do double features where we do an afternoon movie for kids. Last year we did Peter Pan, asked people to come dressed as pirates and princesses. The evening we'll do more for the bigger kids and adults kind of movies. So we've done Grease, we've done Jaws. And then October, of course, we always do horror movies in here.
Is that pretty popular?
That is probably our biggest month usually.
Really?
The atmosphere here is great for it, and people love to come. And we had more sponsorships of movies last year than we've had any year. We had 9 movies totally sponsored where we didn't have to pay the licensing fee, and that really helps us.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, when the local businesses helps chip in. So what's involved with sponsoring the movie?
So right now, you can contact us via Facebook Messenger and say, hey, I want to sponsor a movie. Give us the name of the movie, we'll look it up. We get you the price of what it costs to license the movie. If you agree to it, You get to pick the date and the time that you want to show the movie. We make a little poster and put it in the window saying, this movie, this date, sponsored by so-and-so.
If someone wishes to make a donation, how do they get hold of Russell Theater to make a donation?
They can contact us via our Facebook page. They can email russelltheater.org@gmail.com. They can mail us at P.O. Box 371, Maysville, Kentucky 41056, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit.
Awesome. We had a very interesting tour of the Russell Theater. Thank you, Mr. Justin Helvey. That was very fascinating to see what the old girl looks like today. Thanks for watching. Remember, Jesus does love you. And we'll catch you soon on another adventure on Maysville, Kentucky. Simple Living.